Free agency is creeping closer and closer, so we go into the next phase of my free agency-esque videos, and I talk about the unsigned or free agents the Miami Dolphins have and who we should re-sign. What is up, Finn fans? Hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday. It is the start of the week, but we're getting close. I think this weekend is the combine. That essentially starts today. They're going to be meeting, doing all that stuff, but the on-the-field stuff and the 40s and everything aren't until the weekend. So I'll be covering that. I'll be talking about like the best performances out of each position, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But today we are going to be talking about who the Dolphins should target or kind of concentrate on re-signing. Now, I am going to go through this. I'm going to give you names. I'm going to tell you what they made last year, if the Dolphins should focus on re-signing them, all that stuff. But at no point am I going to say the Dolphins should re-sign yada yada at this amount of blah, blah, blah a year. And because this is who they should bring back. Because of this reason, plain and simple. But before we jump into that, I do have to shout out today's sponsor. And you know for a fact, if we're talking money, I gotta shout out today's sponsor, and that is BetUS. BetUS is a fantastic betting site. And when you sign up, hit that link into the description, put in the promo code JOIN125. You receive 125%, not just on your first deposit, but on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,500. Really, really, really good, reliable website. You get 24/7 customer service, 24-hour payouts, really good stuff. I'm going to show you it real quick because the site is awesome. So again, you have all these different things, motorsports, rugby, like anything you can think of, cricket you can bet on. They also have the casino up here that you can't really see. Hold on. Let me really quickly move this. See the casino up here, racing, all that stuff. But they have a lot of cool stuff. But mostly, we focus on football here. You could bet on draft positions, who Mr. Irrelevant might be, overall picks. So you just click on it. So you go draft by position, display selected, boom. There you go. You can click. Now, obviously, Caleb Williams being number 1, you're not going to make much money if that happens. But come all the way like down here, you can make like $2,500 first quarterback selected if somehow out of the blue, Jordan Travis, 25,000 odds becomes the first quarterback selected. Ain't happening. It's going to be Caleb Williams. First non-quarterback selected. Come in here. You can do all these really cool things. Like I said, they got basketball. They got hockey. I know we're getting closer to the end for hockey and all that stuff. So be sure to click on the link in the description. Check them out. Use the promo code JOIN125. Again, fantastic site. Thank you, BetUS, for constantly sponsoring this channel, being a big help to the channel and a big provider. I appreciate it so very much. So let's jump into this. So like I said, I'm going to talk about kind of names that are out there that are free agents for the Dolphins and who we should kind of focus on bringing back. So I'm going to show you right here. This is, I like Over the Cap because they're real, like they get really into the nitty gritty and they're the most accurate, but geez, all of these ads that they have is just ridiculous. Like in here and stuff, like it's ridiculous. Anyway, these are all the free agents the Miami Dolphins will have in 2024. So if you see here, you have May Ogba, who's just cut, but you have Connor Williams, Cedric Wilson. They're going off of their current average per year. Cedric, Christian Wilkins, Braxton Bears, AVG, Isaiah Wynn, all those guys. And the Dolphins have a lot. They have about 27 up-and-coming free agents that they got to deal with. Now, it's going to get real interesting. The Dolphins right now are currently sitting at negative $29 million, give or take, in a salary cap after moving on from Emmanuel Ogba. We don't know. They haven't announced if Xavier Howard's release is going to be a post June 1st or not. If it's not a post June 1st, it is the dumbest move that the Miami Dolphins have ever made in the existence of their franchise, because they save $18.4 million if they, release him post June 1st. That is a big chunk of money that the Dolphins can use in the second half of free agency and all that stuff, because you go post draft and all of a sudden you see what you got, you see what you didn't get. A lot of free agents, a lot of big name free agents kind of wait. There's the first wave, then the second wave, then everyone focuses on the draft. So these free agents will sit back and wait. Okay, we'll see what happens. Like, Derrick Henry, he might not go in the first wave. He might sit back and wait. Let's see who gets drafted and all that stuff. $18.4 million can be a big help come that second half. But yeah, the Dolphins are sitting at about -29. At one point, they were at -51 in those projections. Then they dropped down, and then again, they moved on from Emmanuel Ogbah, saved about $13.4 million. Now, I showed you a list. 27 free agents. Now, there's some names on there that they're not coming back. Bruce Irvin, Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram, Jonathan Harrison. I'm trying to see any other names that I'm like, oh, they'll come back. Eli Apple, he's not coming back. Jake Bailey, he's not coming back. Like there's these names out there that aren't coming back. But then there are some names in there that I'm like, give it a thought. Now there's some names that I wrote on my list that have question marks next to them, because I'm like, I would like to bring them back, but they're not a top need right now. And that's the likes of Braxton Berrios, River Craycraft, and Cedric Wilson Jr. Now, Cedric Wilson Jr.'s, he was supposed to be under contract this year, but he redid his contract last offseason and it voided this year. So those are three wide receivers. Like, if they came back, I wouldn't be upset. Like last year, Braxton made $1.7 million. River Craycraft made $768,000. And Cedric Wilson Jr. made, about $5 million. I wouldn't be upset. It's kind of depth there. Even though like River and Braxton kind of disappeared at some points in the season, you really hear much about them. Whereas Cedric Wilson Jr. really, helped the team, especially against the Cowboys and stuff towards the end of the year. I wouldn't be upset with bringing them back, but unless we can go out and get, better number 3 options and more reliable number 3 options, then I could see those guys kind of going, or they can come back for a minimum, because again, Braxton made $1.7 million last year off the Dolphins. So those are names that I'm like, meh, okay. And then there's names that intrigue me. Like, first off, Robert Jones, who is the right guard, he is a restricted free agent. And as a restricted free agent, the Dolphins can tender him. I ain't talking chicken tenders like I did the last video, the tag video. They can tender him. And essentially, they could put a tender on him. They're not going to put a first or probably second round tender, but they could put a tender on him and keep him for that year at like a minimum rate. I think once you pass like the first 3 years, you're not a restricted free agent anymore. You have to do consecutive years in the NFL as a starter. So I'd bring back Robert Jones. Elijah Campbell is another guy that's a restricted free agent. You could bring them back, just tender them on a low tender, bring them back. And, they help a lot when our offensive line got beat to crap. So those guys. Some other guys, some like lower on the tier name guys that I would like to bring back. Kendall Lamb, he played on a $1.05 million contract last year. He was very good at left tackle when Teron Armstead went down. Helped out a lot. I would love to bring Kendall Lamb back. Deshaun Elliott is a possibility. I like the way he played with Javon Holland, and again, having Anthony Weaver as our defensive coordinator now, he kind of knows how to use the safeties. Like, look at Hamilton and the way McDonald used them. He was all over the place, and that's kind of what Javon can do. So we need like a Deshaun Elliott back there to kind of help. And if, again, a lot of these names I'm going to name and bring up are cheap options you can bring back. Isaiah Wynn, he's coming off an injury. He made $2.1 million last year, and he's coming off an injury. You can bring him back for cheap. Probably bring him back for a 2-year contract and be able to, get out of the contract after this year, and have it be like $1.8 million to bring him back. Because when he was in there and he's healthy, when we had our starting offensive line, it was a good offensive line. with Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, and Austin Jackson, that's a good offensive line. That's an offensive line you could do some crazy good things with. The bad part is they all got injured. So again, I'm not against bringing Isaiah Wynn back because it'll probably be cheap because he's injured and he kind of has an injury history. So you kind of bring him back, put him at that guard position, but also have some depth behind him. Who else do I have on here? Then you have like Robert Jones, Brandon Jones. Sorry, not Robert Jones. I already talked about Robert Jones. Brandon Jones, who I think would fit really well into Anthony Weaver's system, because again, if he tries to have like a whole combination of Rex Ryan, Wink Martindale, and McDonald, he'll blitz, but he'll blitz in different formations. He might have your outside linebackers drop back and blitz your safeties, and that's how McDonald did it. And Brandon Jones is really good at blitzing. Now, again, you're probably like, Doug, you're literally bringing back both safeties. I'm not saying I'm bringing them both back, because if we can go, either draft or get another safety, I'm down for that. Because Brandon Jones is not a good cover safety. And Deshaun Elliott, he's not bad, but he's not great. It'd be nice to have two great safeties back there, like the Bills had at one point. But I wouldn't be against bringing Brandon Jones back, and especially if it's not a lot of money. He's free agent because he's off of his rookie contract now. And again, he's a good blitzer and he's a good tackler. Ask all of our defensive players that he shot at their knees by trying to take out the offensive player. I wouldn't be against bringing him back. Now we start to get into the expensive guys. The guys that are going to cost a pretty penny. Now, Robert Hunt. I'd love to bring Robert Hunt back. Will they? We'll see. Can they? We'll see. You're going to hear this week, you're going to hear a lot of restructuring, if not this week, definitely next week. Because of the combine, and I'm going to talk about maybe tomorrow how the combine works and how it's tampering. You have all the agents there and all the owners there and all those guys there. They're tampering. They're talking to each other. So a lot of restructuring is going to happen. But there's Robert Hunt. I'd love to have him back, but it's all about the money. Like his market value right now, if you go on Spot Track, is $11.8 million a year. That's a lot. That's a lot, especially for a right guard. 11.8 million is a lot. Like if we're talking 7 million, 8 million, that's a little bit more, but 11.8 million, that's a lot. Will he get that from another team? Possibly. Definitely from an offensive line hungry team like the Jets, or I'm trying to think of offensive line teams that need offensive line help. Patriots, division rivals, Bills. You know what I'm saying? Steelers maybe that need offensive line help. They might give Robert Hunt that $11.8 million a year. Andrew Van Ginkel. Now he made $2.6 million last year, and like I told you guys, there's a mutual interest in having him back. But he also wants to see what he can get out there. And for a fact, Vic Fangio is probably going to try his hardest to get him to go to Philly. I would love to keep Andrew Van Ginkel. He's just always on, especially when it comes to pass rush, and his motor is super high. If they could bring him back at a reasonable price, because again, we are paying Bradley Chubb a lot of money, unless again we shake him down and restructure and kind of clear up that cap space. If you could clear up the cap space from Bradley Chubb, I say you take that and you give it to Andrew Van Ginkel and you bring him back. And again, give Phillips the contract extension, but you don't got to pay him a crazy one because he's coming off an Achilles injury. And you could do that by also lowering his cap hit this year. There's a lot that can happen to create cap space, but I'd love to bring Andrew Van Ginkel back. Now the two big boys. Now Connor Williams. Connor Williams is going to wait. His agent already came out, Drew Rosenhaus, and said they are going to wait. They're not rushing because, again, he tore his ACL. So he's in a process of rehabbing right now, and he's going to wait. That might be the money that we can use Xavier Howard's move on, 18.5, 18.4, around there, $1 million. You could take that money, and again, if we don't get the center we want in Powers in the draft, or we don't get a center that we want in free agency, and the Dolphins are kind of sitting there, and they get the second tier wave of free agents, and they pay, they grab some type of center from wherever, and he costs like $2-3 million, and you're thinking to yourself, we're gonna ride with this. Most likely the Dolphins are sitting back and thinking, we're gonna get the money, we're gonna have 18.5, we're gonna give Connor Williams a contract, and he's gonna be with us for another 2 years with an opt-out. I can really see that happening, and it better suits the Dolphins for Connor Williams to not be in a rush to sign with another team. Like, Connor Williams and Isaiah Wynn getting injured sucked for us during the season, but at this point in the season, it actually benefits us because no one wants to pay damaged goods, so the Dolphins can kind of sit back and wait and see. We know firsthand how their injury rehab's going because they're doing it here, so we could sit back and wait. And then the big fish, the one that everyone's talking about, Christian Wilkins. Now, will the Dolphins tag Christian Wilkins? That's a possibility. I already talked about in the video how he's not going anywhere. They're not going to let him leave. So there's a possibility they tag him and then get a contract done. Will they pay him $21-22 million a year? I doubt it. I don't think anyone will pay him that much money. I think if he did hit the open market, I don't think he'll get that much money because he had 1 year of 9 sacks. Outside of that, he didn't break 5, I think it is. I'd be okay giving him an Ed Oliver contract. Now, that might be a slap in the face, and I don't think he'll accept it because the thing that people need to understand about Christian Wilkins is the Dolphins have been trying to get him under contract. They have been doing it all last offseason. They picked up his 5th-year option, and then they were trying to get him under contract. And then if you remember when the season started, they kind of stopped, and then he not the season. I think it was like training camp a little bit. He had to sit in where he was there, this and that. They were trying to get him under contract. They couldn't come to a number that they both were happy with. So if all the reports are correct, the Dolphins will not let him leave, so they'll probably tag him and then continue to try to get him under contract. But I think that'll piss him off if they tag him. So we'll see. He's kind of already pissed off or whatever. So we'll see how that all pans out. But again, we have 27 free agents, and I can name, and Deshaun Hand, he's another guy out there I forgot to mention. I really like the way he played when he had to come step in. He could be a cheap option. He, currently making $1 million a year. But for sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 9 free agents I would definitely want to bring back out of 27. Because, again, there's guys out there like Robbie Chosen, Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, Bruce Irvin, Jonathan Harrison, that I'm like, no, I'm not bringing them back. They didn't really do much for us. And, most of those edge rushers, we were just emergency guys. Eli Apple, I don't know if I bring back Savon Ahmed because I do like what we have in Brooks. And I want to go after Derrick Henry. And that's another video that I'm going to talk about. I'm not bringing back Jake Bailey. I think he's a horrible punter. And again, like I said, Jonathan Harrison was more of an emergency break in case of use type of center. But comment below, out of the 27 free agents we have potentially hitting the open market, who is your priority to bring back? Comment below. And I think tomorrow's video, I'm going to kind of talk about the combine a little bit and how it works for the people who don't know how it works and how a lot of tampering goes on. A lot of tampering. But on that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. But like usual, stay classy. Have fun.